All right. Well, good morning, Rotary District 7770, and welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Monday, February 1st. Folks, we've already made it to the second month of the year of 2021. Can you believe that? My name is Donald Hovis. I'm your CWRAP host. I'm from the Chicora Rotary Club in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Joining us today from Archetype SC, also here in the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area, is Joseph Bonanno. Joseph, how are you doing this morning?
I'm wonderful, Donald. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to your presentation in just a minute, but up first, a couple of announcements. Introducing your CWRAP team, our public image chair from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia, the wonderful Mary Gask. Mary, thank you. Happy February. Those of you on the Zoom call, thank you very much. I know it seems like a limited audience today, but guess what? We're going to get the most out of this presentation because talking to such a small audience. But we are recording this. It will go on our YouTube channel, and this is also currently streaming live on our District 7770 Facebook page. So if people aren't on here, they do have the opportunity to hear what Joseph has to say today. All right, so tomorrow is Groundhog Day. So in the chat box, I want your name, your Rotary Club, and if you believe what that groundhog says, and then are you ready for an early spring or 6 more weeks of winter? All right. And really hot off the press, just announced about 45 minutes ago from Rotary International President Holger Kanak. He says President-elect Shekhar Mehta encourages members to be change makers and announces his new theme for the 2021-2022 Rotary year. And that theme is Serve to Change Lives. We'll be posting that logo on the District 770 Facebook page, but it is a blue hand with the words Serve to Change Lives below it with a world full of color inside of that blue hand. It's a really cool logo. So that's just hot off the press. So Joseph, at this time, sir, I will first say I had the pleasure of having Joseph at Chicora Rotary back in, I believe, early December. He did such a great presentation that he ran out of time. Like we didn't have enough time to get to everything today. So we got a little bit more time for you this morning, Joseph, but introduce yourself. Start off by telling a little bit about Archetype SC. You'll be able to share your screen when you're ready, and then you can go into your cybersecurity information.
Perfect. I'm sharing my screen now. I want to confirm that you guys can see everything that I have up, and it is displaying beautifully.
Yes, sir.
So today we're going to be talking a little bit about cybersecurity. It's been a hot topic for a few years now, but more importantly, this year we're seeing a number of different issues that are coming to the forefront with remote work, with individuals logging in different capacities from home, from Starbucks, from McDonald's, from wherever they can get Wi-Fi. So it has been my mission for the past year now to try and inform the public about the dangers of accessing networks in these different ways and try to present different options for mitigating your risk and helping you understand some of the challenges that are ahead of you. Now let's see, let me get on to about me. So I am a co-founder and president of Archetype SC. We are an IT consultancy based here in Myrtle Beach. We've been in business together for about 7 years. April 14th, I believe, marks our 7-year anniversary. We specialize here in solving complex IT challenges for business. And the reason why we say that we do complicated is our mission really is to allow businesses to continue to do the work that they do best and allow us to support your IT infrastructure, to help you grow, to help you solve these challenges that come with getting online, with improving your business, with finding better ways to utilize technology in your business model. I've been in the consulting space for about 20 years now. Leveraged mostly in enterprise technology and consulting. I am at heart a customer experience and user experience expert. So I've been trained throughout user experience, and really what that comes down to is I make things look pretty. So when you log into a computer system and you go, oh, or you can't figure out what you're doing, a user experience expert hasn't looked at that system and hasn't made sure that it functions appropriately for the audience that it's intended to. Additionally, I'm co-inventor of a technology called A2 Analytics, which does location awareness tracking at various facilities around the state and throughout the country. And really what that does is it allows the locations that are employing it to monitor the precise location of devices as they move through that facility, allowing them to track trends, allowing to understand movement, allowing them to safely identify and locate employees and resources at any point in time. I'm a member of the City of Myrtle Beach Technology Advisory Group, HGTC's advisory group, as well as AAST, our local Academy of Art, Science, and Technology. And just recently, I started working with the Boys and Girls Club here to help bring technology to some of our underserved communities here in Myrtle Beach. So today's agenda, we just talked a little bit about Archetype SC. We're going to talk about why cybersecurity matters. We're going to talk about individual responsibility, cybersecurity for employers, and how to protect yourself. If at any point in time you want to jump in, feel free. I welcome questions as we're going through so I can add clarity and certainly add some color to the conversation that we're having. So with that said, I covered a little bit of our about us. We are an IT consultancy, like I said, cybersecurity, digital experience, data and analytics, business intelligence, web design, all of these different components of technology that are utilized in all of our businesses every day. We have functional experience in working with to ensure that the technologies you're using are the right ones and that there's a roadmap to success in the future in migrating to new technologies. We work with many local businesses as well as Fortune 500s to provide these services in different capacities. And currently, I think we manage just over 100 different technologies for different clients across the globe. Some of those clients are as large as Reynolds American, IHG, Altria, to as small as Odysseys Unlimited, a small group tour travel company based up in Massachusetts. We work with Myrtle Beach Airport and a number of other different entities here in Myrtle Beach as well. So on to cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity? Most of us have been hearing about different forms of breaches. We know about ransomware. We've heard about malware. Some of these other things may be a little more foreign to us. Phishing attacks have been on the rise this coming year. And really what that is somebody looking for information and trying to confuse you in order to get the information that they need. Essentially putting a line in the water and waiting for somebody to nibble at it, and then going in full force and trying to hook you. Brute force attacks are exactly what they sound like. It's somebody or a group of somebody's attacking your equipment so hard that they break it. And generally they use that type of break to compromise the system and get at other additional information underneath. And then lastly, man-in-the-middle attacks. So these attacks are more common in identified areas. So for example, as a business, I can right now go and look up every business IP that HTC, our local telecom provider, provides for businesses. They provide a range, and I can say, okay, I know that anybody on this IP range, just like with phone numbers, I know all of these are businesses. So I can listen for traffic that's going from those IP addresses to different places, like say the IRS. And when I see certain IPs making connections, I can then stand in the middle of it, gather information, and then attack different sources with that information. They're lovely things that these different attackers have come up with. But the most common that we face today and the most frustrating recently have been ransomware and malware, and of course, denial of service. So it's a growing threat. We're expecting 2021 to continue to grow at an alarming rate. 9 billion accounts were exposed in the past 6 years, with 2 billion of those in 2019. 2020 was worse. 2021, the expectation around ransomware continues to grow. 33% of data breaches were recorded in 2019, or they grew by 2019. The number of, I've got some blockage on my screen here. Let me adjust this a little bit so I can see all of my data as well. The number of records involved in breaches increased by 112% from 2018 to 2019. So more than doubled. We expect to see that again this year as well. More than 5,000 breaches were recorded in 2019. What does that mean? So Marriott, Hilton, IHG, the US Postal Service, if you name an entity, they've probably been breached. Your email, your information, your personal information, your transactional information is more than likely floating around on the web somewhere. It's a sad thing to know, but I've probably been put on different theft protection, ID theft protection services, probably 5 times in the last year alone for different breaches that have come up for me personally. So what are some of the myths about cybersecurity? The biggest one that I hear is the last one that I have on here, and we're going to talk about that quite a bit. So using antivirus is enough to protect you is a wonderful common myth that's out there, but it's simply not enough. While using antivirus will protect you from a virus getting on your computer, it's after the fact. So most antivirus, most black or white blacklist antiviruses software is reactionary. Something has to happen in order for that update to happen, which allows the antivirus to be effective moving forward. So somebody needs to get breached first. Another misconception is hacking is difficult. We've gotten to the point now where most hacking is done by either automated means or by kids we like to call script kiddies. Script kiddies are individuals who are just getting into the field and write code to see what they can do. These are younger individuals, sometimes as young as 13 or 12, or sometimes college students, and they're out there learning about security and testing to see how they can hack things. One of the biggest hacks from a few years ago started as a college project. It wasn't meant to be malicious, but the code was stolen, weaponized, and then deployed and turned into one of our biggest hacks. I believe it was of 2018. So hacking is not as difficult as it seems to be or as it was in the past. Another one is because it's in the App Store, it must be secure because, you know, Apple certainly secures everything 100% of the time. And same with Android. That's simply not the case. With $50, you can put an app into the Android store, into the Play Store, and that's really all that it takes to get one in there. So an insecure app can be put there, and that insecure app can give access to all of your devices very, very easily to a malicious user. Apple users are safe. So I'm not sure how many of our audience are Apple users today. I am a big fan of Apple, and for the longest time, it was an Apple system can't be compromised. That's no longer the case. We need to be vigilant on all fronts, and just saying, yeah, I've got nothing to worry about, I'm on a Mac, these are all PC things, is not a good approach to cybersecurity. Making sure that your systems are protected is your responsibility, and Apple will always do its best, as well as Microsoft and several of our other providers, but there's always more that can be done. Text messages are not at risk. This is one that's really come of age in the last couple of years. That's two-factor authentication, leveraging text messages and other text messaging is safe, and we don't need to worry about that because I know who I'm communicating with. More and more, we're seeing these man-in-the-middle attacks where a website will pretend to be Microsoft or pretend to be Apple, And when you go to enter your information, it asks you for two-factor, and they're standing in the middle, gathering that code and then entering it into Microsoft and compromising your account. This is a pretty scary one and not as common today as it will be in the future, but more and more we're seeing text messages become compromised. We're seeing process for two-factor in some cases become compromised that utilize these types of services. And again, but nobody wants my information. I'm just a little person sitting here in Myrtle Beach. Why is my data important? Your data is important because it's access to your financial data. Your computer is important because it gives them access to other computers, to other people, to larger networks. The lowest man on the totem pole still has access up that totem pole, and that's what these people are looking for. It's not just about compromising you for the sake of compromising you, and it's not a personal attack. In a lot of cases, these attacks are coordinated to hundreds of thousands of people simultaneously, and getting into your system and accessing it gives them access to more people. So the risk for individuals, 1 in 3 computers with internet access is attacked every 39 seconds, affecting 1 in 3 Americans each year. So we see an extraordinary amount of traffic. One of our clients that happens to be a very large bank sees, I believe it's 400,000 attacks an hour into their system. And those are all handled by firewalls, and they're all kept at bay, and they're all managed. But these are the types of things that we deal with on a regular basis. It's happening to our systems every day. If you were to take a Windows 98 system and plug it into the internet today, it will be compromised within a minute of accessing the internet. That's the sad reality today. And nobody's actually trying to attack it anymore, but these bots are running, and they will compromise that system and turn it into a server for their means within a minute. 3/4 of organizations in the healthcare industry have been infected with malware in the past year. One of our largest here in Myrtle Beach, which was pretty well public, was Tidelands Health. We've also had Conway Medical was compromised in the last 2 years. There's been a number of different attacks against healthcare information. And this is the type of information we don't want getting out there. So it's not just individuals that they're targeting, we're targeting businesses. 267 million Facebook users has their ID, phone number, and name exposed in a data breach. So that happened in 2019. 267 of a billion or 2 billion users doesn't seem like a lot, but that is an extraordinary number of IDs to be out there. So as you can see, the risks are growing and growing. The number of handheld devices in use today, 5 billion. So 300 million of 5 billion devices were compromised just in 2019 in one attack. And these attacks are happening every day. We expect that number to hit 30 billion by 2025. So convenience versus risk. The largest thing that we see today is, I don't want to have to change my passwords. I don't want to have to maintain a different password for everything that I use. It's so difficult to do these things, but consider the risk that you're entering when you do this. Online banking, when you're using the same password across multiple sources, you're exposing and making it easier for criminals to find what's going on within your banking profile. When you utilize public Wi-Fi, I advocate against using a public Wi-Fi wherever you are. I understand the pandemic makes that difficult sometimes. If you can control your environment, use your hotspot on your phone, use a known environment to you, and you will infinitely protect yourself. Public Wi-Fis are easily compromised, and there's typically bad actors looking to utilize those services to attack your machines. And once you connect onto their Wi-Fi, you become an easy target. Charging devices through public USB ports. This one, people don't really think about, but one of the easiest ways for me to compromise your computer is to plug something into the USB port. Most of our computers, even when locked, have auto runs set to auto start whatever's on that USB device and load it. If there's a malicious piece of code on that USB device, it will execute on your computer and compromise it. It's one of the easiest attacks that we have in our arsenal. And it's one of the most common penetration testing techniques used. I'll drop a USB device in the middle of an office and just wait and see who picks it up and plugs it into their computer. The second they plug it in, it sends out a message to me and I've now got access to your computer. It's as simple as that. That's how quickly these things happen. So when you're charging devices through public, don't use their USB ports, use your own extension, use your own outlet. Try not to use those types of things. Using autofill. I know how many of us are guilty of using autofill for easy things. What we may not realize is that makes your personal information easily available to somebody who's compromised your computer. I can go into your history on your browser and I can see all of that information in detail. So those credit card numbers you've saved, all of your addresses, all of your other information that you've put there. Allowing others to use your device. And we all hand our device to our kids from time to time. Our kids are getting smarter and smarter. And with that, they're making our machines more vulnerable as they do different things on different devices. Opening emails or attachments. So I see this one frequently, and one of the best phishing attacks that we have is an administrator receiving an email about a financial payment or about updating a bank account. And they take that email and they treat it as legit because it looks legit to them. And they forward it to the CFO or to somebody else. And that person now takes that email as a trusted source because it's coming from somebody inside their company. They hit the link, they log in, and next thing you know, they've lost $1 million because they've changed bank accounts and that fraudulent bank account has taken money from them. It's as simple as that. It happens like that all the time. It happened in Florida to one of the schools. A contractor switched banking information and sent a multi-million-dollar check to pay subcontractors, thinking that they were paying them when in fact they were depositing it into a malicious account. When they tracked it back, it came from an accounting admin who saw the email, thought it was legitimate, forwarded it up to the CEO or CFO. They changed the accounting information and started sending payments. So it can be as easy as that. And these are the things that we really need to look for. If you're not sure, don't open it. If there's an attachment you don't recognize, don't click on it. Delete it, call your IT person, have them look at it. If you're unsure, reach out to somebody else. Using voice-activated features on your devices. More and more, there's actually fun pranks that people like to do now. Walk up to your device and start talking about something inappropriate. Many of you may have noticed that if you talk about going camping, or if you talk about buying a vehicle, all of a sudden advertisements start showing up all over the place for what you were talking about. Your phone is listening. The voice-activated features on your devices make it that much easier for individuals to compromise your system. So questions to ask yourself. Have I had a credit or debit card compromised? I think most of us will raise our hand and say yes. How many devices is my information saved on? I've got just sitting in front of me 4 devices right now that I have information saved on. Is my home Wi-Fi network protected? If you've got a router from your cable company and that's all you have, your system is not protected. You've got a router, you've got nothing stopping intrusions coming in unless you've configured some type of firewall or asked your network provider to do one for you. How many devices are connected in my home? I think I'm up to almost 100 inside of my home. And as more IoT devices become available, we're going to continue to add them because they're so dang easy to use and they're so much fun to play with. If I can change the color of my lights anytime I want, I'm going to do that. But every time I add something like that, I'm adding complexity to my network. I'm making another entryway for somebody to do something bad. Lastly, are all of my passwords secure and unique? Most of us do not. I have I think I'm approaching 400 passwords. Not a single one matches any of the others that I have in my system. They're rotated every 90 days. They're all at least 20 characters long, and they're all very, very well protected. I consider myself an anomaly. It takes I won't say a tremendous amount of effort. It's a minor amount of effort to maintain that. The nice thing about where I am right now is I don't remember a single password that I have. I couldn't tell you what my login information was for my bank account if you asked me or tried to pry it from my cold dead hands. I have one master password that I have to remember. That password is changed on a frequent basis. It is over 25 characters long and should never be compromised by today's standards. So what is the impact of all of this? As an individual, we get compromised. It goes up the chain into our businesses. Our businesses get compromised. 12 billion lost in revenue every year due to ransomware attacks right now. And the interesting thing about ransomware is their customer support is better than most of the companies that you deal with today. You can call up a ransomware company and say, you know, I don't have the money to pay this bill. And they will work with you on a payment plan in order to get that bill paid and get your system back to you. It is amazing how efficient they have become at breaching systems, taking them over, and offering better customer support than Apple or Dell or any of these other computer providers. Somewhere in the US, a business is hit with a ransomware attack every 14 seconds. We see it every day. We're getting more and more reports every day of government organizations that are compromised. I received an email from an airport the other day from an airport administrator that seemed suspicious. So I reached out, and indeed their Microsoft tenant, their Office 365, their Microsoft 365 had been compromised and was emailing different things out, trying to compromise more systems. So this goes pretty high and pretty far reaching. 63% of confirmed data breaches leverage a recycled or weak or default password. This is where we come into this as individuals. My favorite story recently was I went to the state park to get an annual pass. I was talking with the admin at the desk, and she told me her password. Within 3 minutes, I had the password to her system. And then she told me that she really hates updating her password. So generally what she does is she adds the year to the end of the password. So now I not only knew her password now, I know what her password's going to be in the fall. I know what it's going to be in the spring. I know it's going to be in the winter. And I can easily compromise that system anytime I want. Now, this is a local state park, but that computer is connected into DHEC here in South Carolina. So that could potentially give me access all the way up through and into the state government. And I could continue to compromise systems as I go. It may start out as a small person, but it goes higher and higher every day. Now, the standards on passwords have changed several times. And I think I get into this a little bit later, but you no longer need to go with gobbledygook if you don't want to. Having a strong, long password is really all you need. If there's a phrase that you like that's not common, like got milk, not a good password. But longer phrases are certainly something that's been utilized very efficiently over the past year. Hitting 20 characters is really where the importance is. Having a capital and a number is really where the importance is. Special characters aren't even necessarily necessary these days. It's just having that length of password with a combination of different capitalization and numbers. So 60% of business victims to data breach will go out of business within 6 months. This is fairly frequent, and it's sad. And it's sad because of twofold. One, the victim has been compromised and they need to pay cyber insurance payouts. They need to do these things that cost them a lot of money to repair. But they're also ostracized, and we're all attacked. And nobody wants to work with the HVAC vendor who was responsible for the Target breach back a few years ago. They went out of business. They went out of business because all of their enterprise clients did not want to work with them after that. Even if they had remediated the results appropriately, nobody wants to work with them out of fear that they're going to get breached by this company. And that's the sad reality that we face right now, is that cybersecurity needs to come out in the open. We need to be more communicative about the breaches that we're having. We need to remove the stigma from it. If we're going to do better, if we're going to solve our problems, we need to know what the problems that everyone is facing is, how they were attacked, how they were breached, what they've done to remediate that breach. Tidelands Health, as I mentioned earlier, was attacked, I believe that was at the end of 2019. Now that they've remediated, they're very open about what they have in place now. They regularly talk about the systems that they've put in place. They took a machine that was in a closet during the breach, put it online, and their new system had that computer compromised computer contained and remediated within 15 minutes. So it was unable to compromise their network again. The ironic part about that is, because they were breached, they're on certain databases for people to contact. They heard from the FBI within 2 days. They heard from SLED within a week. They heard from Homeland Security 3 weeks later that they had a potential breach on their system. So even while there's monitoring going on at a higher level, hearing something 2 days later, 3 days later, a week later, 3 weeks later, you're already dead in the water. You need to be taking these services on yourself. You need to be proactive in how you attack and how you remediate these different problems. So the problem with passwords, how many of us reuse passwords every day? All of us are guilty of it. There's got to be at least one system. You have a shared banking account with your spouse, you're sharing a password. 72% of employees admit to reusing passwords because it just makes my job hard. It's difficult to go through and change passwords every so often. 81% of company data breaches are due to poor password practices, and 90% of all cybersecurity incidents are caused by human action. So we need to act on something to make ourselves better. We need to be more precautious. We need to update our passwords. We need to take precautions when we're on Wi-Fi. What we're working towards in the industry is something where passwords go away. Ways for at least within business, that an employee never needs to know their password, and an employer never needs to know their password, that the systems connect and communicate effectively through other means, and those types of things will go away and be a thing of the past. But that's still a few years out. In the meantime, we need everyone to be as secure as possible, utilizing good passwords, following standards of their organizations. So employer responsibility, people protection. If your focus is solely on protecting your systems, you're ignoring the dangers these individuals pose to your data security. So if you've got employees, if you've got some contractors, suppliers, or your suppliers' employees, all of them add risk to your system. They just regularly don't follow the best practices, and we as employers need to ensure that our employees know what they need to be doing. When we do a cybersecurity assessment, we come into a business, we talk with all levels of employees, not just the top ranking ones, because we want to understand how well your system admin, how well your janitor, how well your call center monitor, how well everybody in your organization understands your cybersecurity posture, because all of them play a role in exposing you to breaches. Following a good policy, spending money and time on training will return invaluable results when you don't get compromised, or when you're able to remediate a breach immediately, rather than having your data out on the web, being exposed and having it constantly get hit. So zero tolerance must be the goal. In 2020 and beyond, cybersecurity must be viewed much the same way as safety in the workplace was 30 years ago. So 30 years ago, it became incumbent on us to be safe. There was this many days without an accident at many plants. Cybersecurity is very, very much the same today. It's incumbent on all of us to do our part to make sure that we're providing a safe and secure environment. We need to remediate these things as quickly as we can. And we need to make sure that there's a plan in place to deal with this, to make sure that employees aren't ostracized because they compromise the system, to make sure that businesses aren't ostracized, but that they're able to get appropriate measures in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. Actions you can take. So I will send these out to Donald later on today for him to share the screen. If you'd like, you can also take a screenshot of it. But have I been pwned? Yes, that is spelled correctly. It does have a P in it. If you visit this website, it will tell you if your email address has been compromised in a data breach. It is a wonderful tool to find out whether your email is secure and just how many times it's out there. You'll see that the little screenshot that's attached has 9 billion pwned accounts right now sitting in it. And this screenshot is many months old. I'm sure it's much higher than that now, but this is a wonderful tool just to understand if your sites are secure, if your passwords are secure, if your usernames are secure. I would suggest taking a look at it and seeing how your email addresses have been compromised. Use multi-factor authentication wherever possible. All of us have the ability, most of the sites that we work with, all of our banking apps have two-factor available. Turn it on, utilize it. It is your best defense against your information being shared. It's your best defense against somebody compromising your system. I get regular alerts on my computers that say somebody's trying to log into your computer. Somebody's trying to log into this account and they're in this location. Is that you? And it allows me to say, no, that's not me, and continue on with my day and not have to worry as much about it. But it does set off an interesting thing. If somebody's entered my password and I'm now getting a multi-factor, I now know I need to change that password. That account has been compromised and it needs to be updated. So while that's a after the fact item, that means that I didn't do my due diligence and I haven't updated that password in a while and I need to do better. Set up a password manager. This is how I manage all of my passwords. Softwares like LastPass and 1Password help to create strong, unique passwords for every account. It allows ease of management. I carry it with me in my pocket every day. It's on my phone and I can use that to log into any of my accounts anywhere in the world from any computer that I need to, although I try to only do it from my own. These systems have become stronger and better at managing passwords over the past several years. And they're the leaders in working towards a passwordless environment, one where you don't need to provide passwords to your employees, one where your password doesn't need to know, your employee doesn't need to know the password to your hardware, your software. They just have access, and that's all they need to know. And when you need to cut access, you can. And that's the wonderful part about these tools is they allow so much flexibility and ease of user experience while maintaining a high level of security. So actions you can take: stay vigilant with your email, checking have I been pwned regularly, getting dark web monitoring, regularly updating your devices to make sure they stay safe, regularly updating your websites. WordPress is a tool that many of us as business owners are familiar with. It makes up more than 30% of websites today. It's also one of the most easily compromised systems if it's not current. If you're allowing your site to become outdated, if you haven't updated it in a couple of years, chances are it's vulnerable, it's been attacked, and it's compromised. These are things that we need to stay on top of. We need to make sure that our softwares are up to date. We need to make sure that our hardware is up to date, because all of that introduces risk. And lastly, ask questions. Sharing our experiences with our friends, with our coworkers, shouldn't be something shameful. We need to get past the shame of being breached, because these guys are smarter than a lot of people out there. The original cybersecurity hacking came from our own NSA and tools that we created to breach other countries. Those things are now coming back to bite us. And most importantly this year, and it's something I typically mentioned earlier, but I'll add it now. As of October of 2020, the Department of Defense and the FBI have issued an alert that paying a ransomware is now an act of terrorism. So prior to this year, the FBI stance was pay the ransomware, get your data back, and then do better. What that's doing is funneling money into different terrorist organizations. So the stance has now changed that you can be held criminally liable for paying a ransomware because you could be funding a terrorist organization. And it's in your best interest to make sure that you're not compromised and that you don't end up in that situation where you're now in a catch-22 of, do I get my data back or do I risk federal prosecution for cybersecurity crime? That's the boat that the government is now putting us in with these. So stay vigilant, stay up with what you need to stay up with, and keep your systems safe. Things to remember, cybersecurity threat is real and growing. It's not going to go away because you put a anti-malware on your computer. It's not going to go away because you have antivirus. You need to be taking regular training. You need to be looking at regular ways to update your systems because people will get in. They will find a way. As sad as it is to say, I try not to be alarmist, but we're at the point where we need to be alarmist in most cases. Cybersecurity is the responsibility of both the business owner and the employee. Technology alone is not going to solve our security woes. We need to make sure that everybody understands what they need to be doing, and we need to regularly test them. I know many organizations that will send out, their IT departments will send out phishing emails intentionally to see who clicks on them. And then they can go target that person for additional training. There are easy services out there that will help you do these things, that will help you identify where you need to increase your security and identify where you need to increase your policy and process. And lastly, you don't have to do it alone. Working with experts in the cybersecurity field can help bolster. Working with people you know in the industry can help bolster and help improve things. We've worked with some of the largest companies in the world. We've also worked with some of the smallest. We have regular mom and pops and companies like the Long Bay Symphony here in Myrtle Beach that we work with to ensure that they stay safe. Are there any questions? Nobody jumped in during the presentation. I typically have at least one question. Can I ask anybody if they have anything they'd like to ask or share?
Yeah, Joseph, they know for these that they don't chime in, that they post them in the chat box, which is what they did. So I have them here for you, and I'll just call them off to you.
Okay, perfect.
What do you do with American Express, and could you comment on why they don't do two-factor authentication?
What do you do with American Express? I can't comment on why they don't do two-factor authentication yet. I'm sure it's something that will be coming. I have different protocols enabled on my devices. I have a very secure password. My best recommendation to you for American Express would be to change your password frequently. Once a quarter is probably sufficient, and make sure that password is a good password and not my birthday or I hate writing passwords or admin1 or password1, but putting something truly secure and unique that you can easily remember is certainly a good way to go.
What is your opinion on face recognition versus fingerprint for security?
I don't know that one or the other is better or worse. Facial recognition software is certainly come a long way, and from a user experience perspective has been good. However, there's recently I don't want to say a breach, but a discovery found in computer vision, which is a popular tracking method for a number of different organizations for doing facial recognition. And what they found is that computer vision was inherently racist. And it's a funny comment to make, but what's happening is the system is having trouble distinguishing darker skin tones, facial hair, and other things that may be prevalent in different communities around the country or around the world. So that creates issues from using those types of services and different things. But as far as using facial ID versus a fingerprint scanner, I don't know that one is necessarily worse than the other or better than the other. Fingerprints are a lot easier to compromise. An individual with a piece of tape can get past your fingerprint sensor. Facial recognition is a bit harder, and there's security in place to make sure that you're not just holding a photo up to a screen. You can try that with most of them, and they will fail miserably.
Another question about American Express is, do you think Credit Secure with American Express is a good thing to use?
Certainly, I won't speak to the individual product, but certainly having some type of product in place is not necessarily a bad idea. Any additional precautions that we take, and the reason why I don't say Credit Secure is I don't necessarily have an up-to-date understanding on Credit Secure's practices, but utilizing services that monitor your credit, utilizing services that monitor dark web transactions or other types of information along that lines is always something good to have in place. It allows you quick notification when something happens and gives you quick insight into where your IDs that have been compromised or your emails that have been compromised are being utilized.
Is using a VPN workable for public Wi-Fi?
Absolutely. If you've got a VPN set up to go into your business, if the public Wi-Fi allows it, it certainly will secure your transmissions over that system. We have a number of partners that we work with in different capacities where the VPN that we connect to disables every output device on that computer. So I can't plug in a USB, I can't plug in a different field, I can't plug in anything to the device, it just won't recognize it. So it allows that device to maintain security regardless of what network it's on.
Uh-huh.
All right. You mentioned in your presentation, but can you reiterate it again, the password manager apps that you recommend?
I personally use LastPass for mine. There's also 1Password. There are several out there that do a very good job of securing your passwords in a password vault. KeyPass, I believe, is another one. Apple also has some built-in systems, as well as Microsoft now, but Apple has some built-in systems that will manage your passwords in between your devices. However, I like having LastPass. It allows me to move between devices easy. It allows me to have my phone with me and work with it and not have to worry whether I'm on an Apple device or a PC to access my passwords.
Excellent. At this time, I'll do a last call for questions. Last call for questions. Please post those in the chat box. Is there an additional risk to creating different personal email accounts for each company that we conduct business?
Is there an additional risk to creating individual accounts?
Yes.
Absolutely not. That's certainly what you should be doing. Anytime that I set up a new vendor, I look to set up multiple accounts. So I want to have my super administrator or my main account, and then I want to create sub accounts for the other individuals that may need to access that. So for example, billing doesn't necessarily need access to IT. IT doesn't need access to billing. Making sure you're following a least privileged security model. So if I don't need access to it, I don't have access to it. And this is something that's becoming more and more prevalent within a lot of industries. I'll use Tidelands as an example because we were talking about it the other day with their CTO. He does not have access to any of their security systems currently because he doesn't need it. He's not the individual doing the work. He's not the individual doing the effort. So therefore, he should not have access to it. If there is something that he needs access to, he needs to request it just like anybody else, and it needs to be approved. Following these types of models, anywhere you can set up and manage permissions, I would suggest doing it. If you have vendors in place and they have multiple people that need to access the system, they should have multiple accounts. If one account gets compromised, that's easy to remedy. If you have 5 people using the same password and the same username, you've just multiplied the risk of that account being compromised by 5-fold. Security by sharing is not security.
let's see here. Is paying bills online a bad thing, or should we go back to snail mail?
Is being billed online a bad thing, or should we go back to snail mail?
It was paying bills online. Is paying bills?
Paying bills online. Okay. Generally, I would say you're more safe paying bills online and buying online than you are going to your local mall and swiping your credit card than mailing in a payment. And the reason why I say that is recently I was mailed an invoice to update my standing within a certain community, within a certain membership community. If I press down on that envelope, I could see my username and password through that envelope. So I immediately reached out to that provider, instructed them that they needed to change this, that they've just introduced a massive security breach, one, by printing my username and password on my bill, but two, that it was readily available through the types of paper that they were using to mail the envelopes. They weren't secure envelopes. So all of these things introduce risk into the equation. Paying a bill online over a secure transaction is certainly a better way to go. Using your bank's online bill pay, certainly confirm that they are secure, that they're using HTTPS, that they've got certain protocols in place, and that you are in fact logging into your bank account. Once you've confirmed all of those things, online bill pay is certainly more secure, I think, than mailing in a check.
Before I ask, there's one final question, but before I do, there's several folks asking if they can receive the slide deck.
Absolutely. Donald, I'll turn it into a PDF and I'll send it over to you.
Thank you. Last question here I have for you is, how do you know which automated password system for use is secure?
Well, there's certainly a little bit of trust there, but do your due diligence. So all of these services have tests done on them. For example, if you're familiar with Box, which is a common file sharing service, they are HIPAA compliant. You can request results of a pen test, and they have to share them with you in order to use them. All of these services provide that level of transparency into their systems to ensure that you as the public know that they are secure. Asking questions is always a good thing. Anybody who's shy in answering those questions is someplace that you want to stay away from. If they're trying to hide that information, there's something not secure about it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Joseph, for sharing a wealth of knowledge here today. Those of you on the Zoom call, I hope you got a lot out of this. I know I did. Joseph, when you send me those slides, I will forward those over to Mary, and we'll get those distributed out.
Absolutely. I'll have that over to you later on today.
Thank you, sir. For those on here, once again, thank you. And a reminder, you may or may not have received today's email. Just a reminder that CWRAP is every Monday at 11 o'clock. Mondays at 11. So next Monday, February 8th, hopefully we won't have the Super Bowl hangover, right? We'll hear from Chris Cothran with Midlands EMS. So I'll conclude today with the Rotary 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill or better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a wonderful Monday and a great week, Rotarians. We'll see you on Monday, February 8th for the next conversation with Rotary Action People. Take care, folks. That's a wrap. Bye-bye.